listening to Behnaz Akhgar. This is BBC Radio Wales. I'm here with you until 5 o'clock, and it's advice hour time now. With me is interior therapy expert Suzanne Roynan, who's here to guide us through the latest trends, getting our homes ready to sell, and a bit of decluttering as well. If you do have a question for her, now is the time to pick up the phone. Give us a call or WhatsApp on 03700 100 110. The text date is 81012, or you can email me. The address is benaz@bbc.co.uk. Suzanne, how are you?
Benny, it's such a pleasure to be here and hear your wonderful voice. I'm very well, thank you.
It is wonderful to have you back on the airwaves as well, and I cannot wait to delve into the decluttering in a moment. But first, let's explain to our listeners, in case they haven't heard you here on the past, what interiors therapy is.
So, interior therapy is a 5-step process, but to put it in context to what we're talking about today, it's like decluttering on overdrive. And the great thing is that if you follow the whole process, then your tolerance for clutter just disappears and it never really comes back. And I think for people who've spent their whole lives or a lot of their adult lives surrounded by clutter, just having this whole sort of clear space to work in is so good for their health and well-being. And so that's interior therapy in a nutshell.
You mentioned about health and well-being. We had our physiotherapist Steve Cannon on the show yesterday, and we were talking about falls because we've got icy stretches and snow and all that, and he said most of the people that come into his clinic have had falls in the house, and normally it's because of clutter.
It is, and it's just awful when you see lives almost destroyed. And I say this from the perspective of having slipped and fallen in my home. Now, cards on the table, it wasn't because of clutter, it was because the floor was slippery. But suddenly I went from being fit, healthy, and chasing around everywhere in my 40s to being on a Zimmer frame and not able to walk properly for over a year. It can happen in a second, and it is totally life-changing. So I think we all owe it to ourselves to make our homes as safe and practical as we can. And one of the rules we have here is that nothing is just abandoned on the floor overnight, because we all wander around this place at night in the dark. We don't put the lights on so that it doesn't wake anybody else up. And that means that we've got to have a safe track to the bathroom, to the kitchen, wherever we need to go. And if everybody else did that, things would be a whole lot easier on fracture clinics and physiotherapists.
Absolutely, and less life-changing experiences as well, as you mentioned. But
Totally.
It is so hard to get started, especially when you've got a lot of stuff in the house. And someone's listening right now thinking, I would love to get rid of this stuff. I just don't know where to start. Suzanne, help me.
Okay, well, if you're struggling with anything, then never be afraid to ask for help. That's the first thing. There are so many resources online and all over the place that people will just help you get a kickstart. But so if I were saying to somebody was saying to me, I'm really overwhelmed, I don't know where to start, I would say, okay, let's have a look in the cutlery drawer, because there will be things in there that you never, ever, ever use. And if that drawer's regularly getting stuck and you're having to angle a knife in just to get in there to get the potato masher, well, when did you actually last use the potato masher? There are little things like this.
I love a potato masher.
Oh, well, and I used to love my potato masher. Now I've got one of those stick blenders, and it's an awful lot quicker, and it doesn't block the drawer.
Yeah.
So, but there will be lots of things in that drawer that you never ever use. Let's get rid of those first. Sort the drawer out, give it a clean, put the things back, and you're done. It's kind of a 5-minute job, and I think that's a really good start for decluttering. You're starting to hone your muscles just a little bit to feel safe and empowered to not hold on to all of these things. And I always say that people keep clutter for one of 5 reasons. It's habit, fear, guilt, confusion, and in some very sad cases, spite. But let's not focus on that. We keep stuff out of habit. We keep things because we're afraid that we might need it one day, or we're confused about, what's this for? If I let it go, am I going to need it another time? And the guilt aspect is if something's been given to you that you really don't want, or even like very much, but you feel an obligation to keep it because of where it came from. And none of those reasons are good enough to clog up the real estate of your home. You know, if you're paying an absolute fortune to live in a home these days, none of those reasons are good enough to have piles of stuff that you don't use, need, or love.
And after Christmas, there will be a pile of stuff, won't there, that people have got that they don't necessarily want, or they don't even have the space to put in. I went shopping with my husband on Sunday. We came home. He's like, right, I've bought 6 items. It was pajamas and things. He's like, I'm going to get rid of 6 items tonight. I said, are you really? He said, yeah, and he did. So things coming in, things need to go out, don't they?
They do, and it does make an enormous difference. So you're just going back to those Christmas gifts that, you know, we get given, we don't really like. You know, don't be afraid to let those go, because once something has been given to you, that becomes your property. And if it's given with strings attached, well, just give it back to the person that gave it to you in the first place. But you know, if you're never going to use those gift sets, or you know, that jumper does not stand a cat's chance in hell of fitting you, then release it.
Make it on to someone who will use it, isn't it?
Exactly. Brilliant. And books as well. People, I love books. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love books. But if you've been given one that you will never read, well, let it go to somebody who will, because books are there to be read. They're there to be loved and used. And if they're sitting on your shelf gathering dust, they're not fulfilling their destiny. So let a book go to somebody who would love to read it.
We've got so much more to talk about, Suzanne. Do stay where you are. If you do have any questions for our expert, you've got until 3:30. Well, try and get in touch before 3:30 by calling or WhatsApp us on 03700 100 110. You can text us on 81012. The email is behnaz@bbc.co.uk. Behnaz Akhgar, I'm here talking about our homes with our interiors therapy expert, Suzanne Roynan. If you do have a question for her, you can give us a call or WhatsApp on 03700 100 110. The email is behnaz@bbc.co.uk. So we were talking about decluttering before we went to the music, and I just wanted to talk to you about, I find it easy, my husband finds it easy to get rid of things, but some people find it really difficult. And you mentioned about the emotional attachments to items as well. What is your advice on helping those people to let go?
Well, every person is unique. That's the first thing to understand. And I can recall a couple of years ago, we were talking, somebody had put in a question because they had boxes of stuff that had been left over after their mum passed away. And he just wasn't quite ready to let that go. And, you know, the fact is that we all come to things at our own speed. And maybe in this situation, it's a good idea to just sort of nibble at it gently. So you might have a box of possessions, but you know that there are a couple of things in there that really have no relevance whatsoever. Then they're not about the person you've lost. They're just sort of totally random things. So you could perhaps let those go. And then ultimately, my suggestion is that you remember that the person isn't in those items. The person is in your heart, and that's where they will always be. So you don't necessarily need to surround yourself with all of the clothes, the pictures, the photographs, the books, the family albums, although, you know, I'd always keep family albums, to be perfectly honest. But you just release the things that don't have that massive emotional attachment, and then gradually you will fine-tune yourself to the degree where you might just have 1 or 2 things that you really treasure, but they are adding to your space, not detracting from it. I think that's the easiest way to say it, as a sort of global way, because everybody is it's so important that everybody deals with it in their own way.
And digitizing those photographs would be good as well, because sometimes with time they kind of lose their look, don't they? So just taking pictures of them or scanning them would help as well. And we mentioned earlier, you said if you don't know where to start in the cutlery drawer. Now, if you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed when you do start, how would you advise those people to kind of make the start wherever it is possible and kind of get through it?
I think one of the easiest ways to do is just set yourself a little timer, or say, right, by 4:30 I will have done this. And at 4:30 you put the kettle on, you make yourself a cup of tea, and congratulate yourself on your achievement. If you do it in bite-sized chunks when you're getting used to it, especially if you're doing it on your own. It's all very well if you've got somebody like me who's there holding your hand and motivating you through it. That's great. But most people don't have that opportunity. So take it in little chunks, do your achievement, recognize what you've done. If it helps you, take a before and an after photograph just to celebrate what has actually happened there in your house, how you have made that tiny difference to your life. And then as your confidence grows, you might say tackle an entire chest of drawers or a wardrobe or the cupboard in the center of the house. And when we talk about feng shui and well-being, the center of your house is all about health and well-being. If your health has been struggling, if you're feeling a bit blue, start with that cupboard, because it will be so much better when you've sorted it out.
Yeah, why does decluttering help with your mental health?
Well, you talked about overwhelm. And if you just think about piles of stuff around you, that is going to increase your overwhelm. Now, if I say to you that clutter is a byword for stress, procrastination, we talked about fear and bad habits, and also overwhelm, then dealing with it is automatically going to bring you a little bit of headspace, the opportunity for happiness, better health, and a whole lot less stress. And if we reduce the aspects of overwhelm and stress, then we can tip into helping with anxiety, we can help with depression. And even if you just clear one tiny area of a room so that you can go and sit there and not feel that pressure, then it will motivate you to do other parts of the room and the house, and then suddenly you're feeling a whole lot better and the house is looking a whole lot better too.
I feel a whole lot better since I've been chatting to you, and we've had a message as well from one of our listeners, Khadija. I want to say hello to her. She says, "Hi Behnaz and Suzanne. I have been looking at my utility drawers since the new year. Thanks for the encouraging tips. I will declutter it today." Woohoo! Win-win, huh?
Oh, fantastic. Haditha, take some before and after photos and send them in, because we'd love to see what you accomplish.
Yes, that's a really good idea. Any of you doing any tasks like that, we'd love to see the pictures. You can either email us, behnaz@bbc.co.uk, or you can give us a WhatsApp on 03700 100 110. Do stay where you are, Suzanne, and we do have Suzanne with us until 3:30 today. Any questions, text us on 81012. That is Maroon 5 with Sugar. I got Aswad coming up in the next hour. Bon Jovi, Hue and Cry, so many great tunes. And we have got our expert all about decluttering, Suzanne Roynan, with me for another 20 minutes or so. So if you want to get in touch, text us on 81012. And Suzanne, we've had an email from Jane, which I want to read out to you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
A very good afternoon to you, Jane. And she says, "Hi both. I have let my bedroom get so bad I can't even sleep in the room anymore. There is clutter in every room, and I believe there's an element of feeling overwhelmed. I have managed to start and feel so much better, but it's baby steps. I have been shocked at the rubbish I've collected, but I've been pleased at the things I've found after starting. I do have mental health issues, and I've realized I'm good at avoidance. My mum is the same. So we need to clear the house in case of change of circumstances." That's from Jane. So it sounds like there's some progress there.
Oh, bless you, Jane, and Mum too. Yes, I think there's a little bit of a generational thing going on here as well. And Jane, every single thing that you do to reclaim your space will help your headspace too. So keep up the great work. I'm really, really proud of you.
Yeah, and she was saying about feeling overwhelmed and taking those baby steps. But how wonderful that she's been able to find new things as well as getting rid of old stuff. What's the most overwhelming thing about doing this decluttering then?
I think it really is the fear of starting, and the fact is, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And if you've already got a lot of mess around you, a lot of clutter, and then suddenly you're surrounded by black bags and boxes and things that are going here and things that have got to be taken to a charity store or the dump, or perhaps you've decided you want to sell, and then suddenly there's even more mess. And this is why I always recommend, if you're going to do something, manage your time so that you can then get rid of the stuff on that same day rather than it stacking up and creating more bedlam for you in your home.
So choose a space, work on that space, decide what you're going to do with the things that you're going to get rid of. If it is to go to the charity shop, do it that day, because quite often people, put it in the back of the car, and a month later it's still there, and it's really irritating, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm less worried by it being in the back of the car though than being in the hall by the door.
That's true.
Because, just talking about the whole slips, falls, and trips things, and it's very, very tempting to second guess yourself. And, once you've made a decision to put something in a bag, close that bag. You did that with the best of intentions for yourself and your future well-being. So
if you haven't needed it in the last year or two, you're not going to need it again, are you?
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Jane, for getting in touch. Let us know how you get on. Let us know when it's done and dusted. Let's set a target for you to kind of finish it all before the next time Suzanne comes on the show. So we're going to give her a couple of months. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
That'd be great.
So let's talk about selling houses, because, March is only around the corner. That's the month a lot of people start thinking about selling their homes, but they might want to put preparation in place now to get their homes ready and nice and ready to put on the market. So where should we start when we're getting our homes ready to put on the market?
Well, we're talking about decluttering today, and I say a massive, massive declutter. Basically, look at your home and decide what you really want to take to somewhere sparkling new to you. Because if you imagine, I'm not suggesting that everybody's going to go into a new home, of course, but if you think about a show home, it's not full of clutter and piles and endless photographs of the whole family from, the moment they were born. It's styled, it's beautiful, and it's ready to move into. And if you think about it, a show home looks a lot larger than it really is, and that's because it's clutter-free. Now, when you put your home on the market, you want people to walk in there and think, oh, this is really spacious. This is a great place to live. We can put our couch there. We can put the wardrobes there in that space. If they can't see past your stuff, they'll either walk away or they'll be curious about what the stuff is hiding. And that can be a really major issue, especially when it gets to survey stage. Or they'll just think, oh no, we could possibly live here because it's far too small. And they'll go away. What I find is that if you prepare first, if you make your home look as close to a show home, and let's face it, you've got to live there, got to be realistic about it. But if you walk in and you think, oh, this feels really, really nice, then people who come to view will think that too. And that's when you get into the realm of having people getting into a bidding war for your property and the price going much higher than you might have ever thought you would accomplish.
That would be nice.
But equally, if you put your home on the market and it's cluttered, first of all, your photos won't do it justice, so half the people who might have viewed won't even bother to come and take a look. But secondly, you run the risk then of people offering low or not getting offers at all. And I know there's a property in a really, really sought after area where most places go within a month most, and it had been on the market for 8 months before they called me in to deal with it. And we did 2 days work. It sold the following week at 45 grand over the asking price.
Wow.
Now, that going from zero to hero by actually just taking the initiative to do something about it. Because you see, what you won't realise also is that your clutter is hiding potential decorative and maintenance issues that at the point where a surveyor comes around, they will always say, no, actually, if we can't see it, then you need to think about getting the roof done. There are possibly leaks here. There's this, that, and the other. Every single thing that goes onto a survey potentially knocks down the value of your property.
Oh,
so if you've done a declutter, you've dealt with the maintenance issues, you've repaired anything that needs doing, you've perhaps redecorated a couple of rooms, then suddenly there is no reason for people to knock money off your sale price.
Okay, thank you very much, Suzanne. explaining things beautifully for us. We've got one last segment to talk about our interior design and decluttering. Any questions, you can text us on 81012 or call or WhatsApp 03700 100 110.